Hey guys, it's me Dax. I'm back with another short video, maybe not so short. This one following on from the concept of not working so hard and working more smart. Okay, and this is what really lies behind the whole process, the whole procedure that we're going through as we go through the January Jumpstart and any of the other programs that I put together. And it's all based around the concept of threat. Okay, now one of the biggest reasons, or if not the biggest reason, why most people don't achieve most of the things that they want is because of their hormone, their body, and their kind of behavioral reactions to threat. Okay, so something happens, and instead of you being responsive, which is a sign that you are not in threat, remember, if you can respond, it means that you're in your prefrontal cortex. It means you're up here and you're able to say, well, I don't want to eat that thing because it's not a particularly good choice for me, versus if you react, which is like, I've had a crappy day, I'm going to eat that chocolate. That's just a food example, right? But there's a distinct difference between a response and a reaction. A reaction is subconscious. It happens by itself, and it happens usually as a result of a threat kind of stimulus, and we'll speak about that in a second. A response is something that is still happening to a stimulus, but it's something that you have a certain degree of cognition, thought process that goes on, where you say, is this going to be good for me? Is this the best way to go about this? Now, what distinguishes the two, what makes both of them possible, is very largely to do with the state of safety that you're under, or the state of threat. If we can look at it in two directions. Okay, so what is threat? Threat is your inability to predict the future and your inability to create an appropriate response. So let's look at the first component: inability to predict the future. If I am having troubles in my relationship, if I'm having problems at work, if I've got financial problems, if somebody that I really love is sick or whatever, and all of these things are showing up on my horizon, then I have a large degree of unpredictability. I don't really know what my future looks like. I don't know whether mum's going to be around much longer. I don't know whether I'm still going to have that job. I don't know if I'm right. So many different factors. These all show up in the human brain as threat. Okay, you can't predict your future, therefore you're under threat, because a large part of our safety is about prediction. Okay, I know I'm able to talk to you right now comfortably and discuss this because I'm very, very certain that the ceiling's not going to fall down on me. There are no cracking sounds, there's no dust coming down from the ceiling right now. Okay, so I feel safe, which means I'm allowed to engage in using my brain to actually discuss with you this concept. Okay, if there was dust coming down, if there was loud thumping and cracking, and the building started to shake, do you think I'd really be sitting here carrying out this kind of activity? I'd be out of the building as fast as a flash. Okay, right? So my ability to predict my future is a big part of safety, but so is the ability to create the appropriate response to my environment. Okay, and this is a massive part as well. So let's, for argument's sake, say you can predict your future and your future looks nasty, right? Let's say you're about to be, you know for a fact you're being made redundant next week. That's it. No ifs, no buts. You're predicting the future, so to one degree you should feel safe. But where you feel unsafe is where maybe you don't have a response. Maybe you say, well, I don't know what else I could do, and I don't know where else I earn money, and the economy's really bad at the moment, and no one's hiring, and you don't have a response to this, right? Which, and as soon as you take away prediction, as soon as you take away response, you are left with the brain running its threat patterns. Okay, and threat patterns kind of put your whole body onto high levels of alertness. And another word for alertness in the human body, when the tap of alertness is left on too long, okay, is anxiety. You become hypersensitive to your environment. Okay, now if you're hypersensitive to your environment, everything that you've built as a threat reaction, as opposed to a response, remember, a response is something that you think through, you have a prediction about, you have a response about, you say, okay, this is not the best choice for me to eat today, this is not the best thing for me to do today, I think I'll choose this, this, and this over this, this, and this. Okay, that is a response. When you find yourself in high levels of anxiety, which is essentially another word for threat, when you find yourself there, your brain doesn't stop to ask you and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think is the best thing for you to do? What your brain does is immediately goes into pre-written programs that say, hey, here's a quick response for you, and one of those or quick reaction for you, and one of those reactions might be to reach for the chocolate or to engage in what most people would call self-sabotaging behaviors. Now, they're not sabotage, they're just poorly written programs that don't serve you. And the reason they're not serving you is because they were never meant to serve you from a thrive perspective. Okay, so if you imagine a spectrum, we've got survive at this end, we've got thrive at this end. Okay, once you trigger into the threat components, you go, okay, your entire life becomes about survival. Okay, and survival isn't nice. Survival isn't about kind of looking pretty in that dress and kind of being really pleased with your six pack, and it isn't about, you know, kind of having the best possible relationships and all these things. It's about getting through stuff. Okay, getting through things. That's what survival is. Thrive is I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. In fact, I am so safe that I can afford to give up some of my mental energy and mental space to things that expand me and grow me as a person, and increase and influence my life further off into the future. Okay, I can work on art, and I can enjoy music, and I can do a whole number of things because ultimately I'm not in threat. And this is actually one of the reasons why when we're in higher threat, a lot of things that we thought we enjoyed, we stop enjoying them. Okay, and that can be everything from sex to food to art to music to even enjoying just being with your children and your loved ones. So it all becomes a bit meh, right? Kind of a little bit less interested in all of it, because the fact that you're able to enjoy something is actually the sign that you are out of threat. Okay, lack of enjoyment is one of the first triggers that, or one of the first signs that shows us actually that you're more in the threat and anxiety end of the spectrum. So now think about how this relates back to that whole kind of feeling meh and feeling depressed and feeling anxious and all the rest of it. Okay, different ends of the spectrum, and whenever you're feeling in those places, threat is present. So the answer to this becomes, first off, let me stop doing any extra things on top of this that I specifically deem unpleasant, okay? Because it's a two-way street. The things that you hate doing can also trigger the threat and push you further into it, which is why the approach that we've taken in January Jumpstart and so many of my other programs, they're based around doing things that you enjoy to begin with, okay? Because what we need to do is put the pin back in the hand grenade. Okay, the metaphorical hand grenade that's about to go off, right? You put the hand grenade is always a weapon, right? It's always got the potential to explode, but the potential to explode is really high when you pull the pin out. It's massive, right? You're walking around with this hand grenade going, damn, I can't put it down. If you can put the pin back in the hand grenade is still a weapon. It still has the potential to explode, but you can put it down. Okay, this is what the initial approaches in this program are about. It's about putting the pin back in the hand grenade. So we don't do things that we already know for a fact we don't enjoy. We don't do things that push us further into threat by being so terribly sore and so uncomfortable and so hungry and so deprived that we're actually already moving ourselves further into threat. So that's one thing. The second thing here is to create as much prediction and response as we possibly can. And it seems counterintuitive, right? When you're in the throes of all of these different kind of issues that are going on, all these different things that are pushing you into threat, the last thing you might want to do is sit down and create this forward planning. But hopefully now you understand why that becomes so important, because the forward planning creates the prediction, and the forward planning also allows you the time to create the response. Without the forward planning, if you get rid of these bits early on, all you're left with is every day waking up to the pinless hand grenade again, and saying to yourself, well, what do I do with this? All this same crap has just landed in my lap again, over and over and over and over again. Okay, so it's about prediction, it's about response. If you don't have prediction and response about your environment, about your life, then you yourself have to walk around in a very, very heightened state of alert all the time, and that's what creates the anxiety. That's what creates the depression. That's what also creates the reactive based lifestyles that so many people are leading. So I hope this makes sense. I just wanted to kind of, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of brain science and physiology and neurology and everything that goes in with this, but I'm just trying to keep it kind of layman's terms for you at this point to explain to you just why it's so important. One, that you don't push yourself further into threat by giving yourself nasty things to do or things that you're not enjoying, and two, that every opportunity you've got to actually sit down and do this, that you actually work through creating a plan. Okay. Now there's a big distinction between a plan that is a controlling plan. At 9 o'clock I must be, at 10 o'clock I must be, at 11 o'clock I must eat one handful of nuts, which will comprise three nuts, 2 raisins, and right. Well, that the level of control in itself is a sign that you're under threat. Okay. So there's a big difference between a plan, which is essentially about responsiveness, which is, okay, here's some things that I'm planning to do as a result of how I'm feeling right this moment. But it's also now important that you don't give yourself crap when you can't stick to your plan. You just see it as a, okay, either I didn't plan well enough, it wasn't realistic for the situation I was in, or I need to start thinking about better plans that account for the stuff that shows up again and again and again. Okay, so yesterday you tripped up because they had a meeting at lunchtime, and the meeting was in the pub, and whilst nobody drank, kind of you were eating pub food for lunch, and it wasn't that great. Okay, well, let's, for argument's sake, say tomorrow that is going to happen again, and every day this week they are going to have all of their staff meetings in the pub, and that's the same place that you're going to be. What will be your choice tomorrow? That's what I mean by planning. Creating prediction, creating response means that you don't get caught up in reaction. Okay, so I've got a lot more to say about this, but I'd really love to hear your feedback on it and see if that's just clarified some things for you. I'd also love to hear your questions about prediction, response, threat, survive, thrive, safety, all of this kind of stuff. Okay, but I'm hoping that maybe a little light bulb's gone off over your head and you're now starting to think, kind of, this is why I've been starting to feel this way. Just bear in mind, the more elements that are up for change in your life right now, sickness, money, finances, job, all of these things, relationships, the more of it that's changing at any one moment in time, the more threatened you are going to be. So this is why it becomes so important that if there are threats that are completely outside of your influence, like a loved one being sick, for example, or that you are losing your job, that's outside of your influence. It's so important that in as many other areas as possible in your life, you create this certainty. You create more prediction and more response, and you use that as the anchor to get you through the shaky part that you're uncertain of. Hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, we'll talk about this a bit more soon, but for now, thanks very much, and leave me your questions. Take care.